AITA for disappearing as my wife's birthday gift and leaving a surprise behind. When she told me that my disappearance would be the best birthday present, I took her at her word. Do you want to know how I became the worst birthday wish ever granted? Let me tell you exactly what Samantha, my wife, said to me when I asked what she wanted for her birthday this year. We had been fighting for months. Every conversation turned into an argument. Every attempt I made to fix things was thrown back in my face. The house in the Oak Creek neighborhood felt like a war zone, where we both tiptoed through a minefield, waiting for the next explosion. I was exhausted. She was exhausted. Even so, I thought her birthday could be our chance for a fresh start. Maybe, if I could get her something she truly wanted, we could find our way back to each other. So, 3 weeks before her birthday, after another silent dinner where we ate like strangers sharing a table, I decided to try one more time. I looked at her from across the kitchen island, where she was washing dishes with more force than necessary. What do you want for your birthday, Sam? A simple question, a reasonable question. She didn't even turn around, just kept scrubbing the same plate as if trying to erase its pattern. I don't know, she said, but her voice had that sharp edge, the kind that warned me we were about to enter dangerous territory. Come on, I said, moving closer. There must be something. A trip, jewelry, that we can get away to the coast you mentioned. Finally, she turned around, and the look on her face. I had seen her angry. I had seen her frustrated, but this was something else. It was pure exhaustion mixed with something darker. Do you really want to know what I want, Gavin? She said, her voice rising with each word. Yes, tell me. You want to know what would truly make me happy for my birthday? I nodded, thinking I was about to hear about some expensive gift or an elaborate gesture I would have to figure out how to pull off. She looked me straight in the eye and said, Your disappearance would be the best birthday present I could ask for. The words hit me like a punch. Not because they were unexpected, our marriage had been unraveling for months, but because of the way she said it, with so much conviction, so much relief, as if she had been holding that truth inside her for so long that finally saying it aloud was like exhaling after holding her breath. If you disappeared, it would be my best birthday present, she repeated, just to make sure I had heard her right. That's what I want. For you to just not be here anymore. I stood there in our kitchen, surrounded by the life we had built together, and felt something inside me turn completely cold. It wasn't the cold of anger, nor of grief. It was a calculated coldness. She turned back to the sink, apparently satisfied now that she had finally spoken her truth. The silence stretched between us like an uncrossable chasm. But that's the thing about getting exactly what you ask for. Sometimes it comes in ways you'd never expect. I watched her back as she continued washing the dishes, probably feeling lighter now that she had said what she really felt. And I made a decision, right then and there in that kitchen. If disappearing was what she wanted for her birthday, then disappearing was exactly what she was going to get. But my version of disappearing would come with a surprise she would remember forever. Okay, I said quietly. So quietly she probably thought I was just accepting defeat once again. She had no idea I was accepting the challenge. The next morning, everything changed, but not in the way she expected. I woke up before the alarm went off, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table, just like I always did. When she came downstairs, she even seemed lighter, as if telling me she wanted me to disappear had lifted an invisible weight from her shoulders. Good morning, she said, making eye contact for the first time in weeks. Good morning, I replied, taking a sip of my coffee. She waited for me to say something about the previous night, maybe to apologize or to start another fight about how cruel she had been, but I gave her neither of those reactions. Instead, I just looked at her and said, I heard you loud and clear. Something flickered across her face. Confusion, perhaps. She had expected drama, tears, or at least an argument. What she got was calm acceptance. In the following days, I stopped doing all the things that had been causing our fights. I stopped trying to plan dinners she didn't want. I stopped suggesting we talk about our problems. I stopped leaving little notes or bringing her coffee in the morning. She noticed, how could she not? But instead of being concerned, she seemed relieved. You've been different, she said one night as we passed each other in the hallway. Oh yeah, I asked without stopping. Yeah, she searched for the word. Peaceful. That's what she called it. When I stopped fighting for our marriage, when I stopped trying to save something she clearly didn't want saved. But I wasn't being peaceful, I was being strategic. While she enjoyed this new version of me, who didn't pressure her or demand her attention, I was quietly taking care of my own affairs. I started organizing our financial records, making copies of important documents like our birth certificates, social security numbers, and IDs, and researching exactly what I would need to do to disappear the way she wanted. I opened a separate bank account, just a small amount at first, moving money in amounts too small for her to notice. I started documenting our shared expenses, our joint accounts, and our mutual obligations. Every night, while she watched TV or scrolled on her phone with that satisfied look she'd been wearing since our kitchen conversation, I sat in my home office, planning her birthday present. The irony was not lost on me. Here I was, putting more effort into giving her exactly what she wanted than I had into anything else in recent months. And what did she want? 2 weeks before her birthday, she actually initiated a conversation with me during dinner. "I was thinking," she said, picking at her salad, "maybe we should do something for my birthday this year." I looked up from my plate. "Oh yeah? Maybe invite a few people over. Something simple." Simple, of course. Planning a party for the wife who wanted me to disappear was definitely simple. "Who were you thinking of inviting?" I asked. "You know, the usual crowd. My sister Heather, a few friends from work, maybe some neighbors." "The usual," she replied. "The same people who had watched our marriage deteriorate over months and had probably placed bets on how long we would last." "Sounds good," I said. "I can help organize." She looked genuinely surprised. "Really? You don't mind helping?" she asked, with a hint of expectation. "Not at all," I said. "It's your birthday. You should have exactly what you want." And then she smiled. The first genuine smile I had seen from her in months. And why shouldn't she smile? She had told me she wanted me gone, and instead of fighting it, I was apparently making peace with the idea, even helping to plan her party. What she didn't know was that I was planning to give her exactly what she'd asked for, just not when she expected it, and definitely not how she expected it. The party would be perfect, absolutely perfect, because it would be my final performance before fulfilling her birthday wish, and the surprise I was planning. She would definitely remember it forever. Her birthday fell on a Saturday, the perfect time for a party and the perfect time for what I had planned. I woke up early and started the preparations like I was the husband of the year. Decorations, prepping appetizers, making sure everything was exactly as she wanted. She watched me with a mix of surprise and suspicion, as if she couldn't figure out why I was being so helpful. "You're really going all out," she said, watching me hang streamers in the living room. "It's your birthday," I replied. "It should be nothing less than perfect." By the afternoon, the house looked amazing. The food was ready, the drinks were chilled, and the music playlist was set. I even put on the shirt she had given me last Christmas from our trip to Seattle, the one I had never worn because we were fighting when she gave it to me. The first guests arrived around 4 p.m. Her sister Heather showed up with her husband, followed by 3 friends from work, then the neighbors from down the street. Everyone was in a good mood, and why wouldn't they be? Free food, free drinks, and a front row seat to see how the couple who had been having problems for months was doing. What they saw was an award-worthy performance. I was the perfect host, attentive, charming, making sure everyone had what they needed. I complimented her dress, brought her drinks, and laughed at her jokes. To anyone watching, we looked like a couple who had overcome their problems and come out stronger. Heather pulled me aside in the kitchen while I was refilling the ice bucket. "I have to say, you two look really good together today," she said. "We're working on it," I replied, which wasn't technically a lie. She looked happy, happier than she had been in a long time. Happy? Of course she was happy. She had told me she wanted me gone. I had stopped fighting with her about everything, and now here I was, throwing her a perfect party while seemingly accepting that our marriage was over. Around 7 p.m., while everyone was gathered in the living room sharing birthday stories, I watched her from across the room. She was laughing genuinely, surrounded by people who cared about her, looking more relaxed than I had seen her in months. This was her moment, the perfect birthday celebration, with all the people she wanted, in the house she loved, with the husband who was finally giving her exactly what she wanted. I stepped out onto the patio for a moment. The evening air was cool, and I could hear the laughter through the windows. In a few hours, all of this would be over. The guests would leave. She would probably thank me for the party, and then we would go to bed like a normal couple, except that tomorrow, her real birthday present would begin. When I went back inside, she was opening gifts. Jewelry from her sister, a gift card for a spa from her work friends, a bottle of wine from the neighbors. She seemed genuinely happy with everything. "Where's your gift?" Heather asked. I smiled and looked at Sam. "I'm saving the best for last." She looked curious, but not suspicious. Why would she be? I was being the perfect husband that night. After the presents, we cut a birthday cake, and there were more drinks. By 10 p.m., people started saying their goodbyes. Her sister hugged her and whispered something that made her laugh. Her work friends promised to take her to lunch the following week. The neighbors thanked us for a lovely evening. By 10:30, it was just the two of us. She started gathering plates and glasses, humming quietly to herself. "Thank you," she said without looking at me. "That was really nice. I'm glad you liked it." "I really did," she said, pausing as she held a stack of plates. "Maybe we can do this more often. Invite people over, be social." Be social. As if we had a future full of dinner parties and game nights. "Maybe," I said. She went upstairs to change while I finished cleaning up. When she came down in her pajamas, she looked younger somehow, lighter. Then she said, settling onto the couch, "You said you were saving the best for last. Where's my real present?" I sat down next to her, close enough that she didn't pull away. "Your real present," I said slowly, "starts tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" "I remember what you told me you wanted for your birthday." Her expression shifted slightly. The lightness vanished. What I said that night. We were both angry. "I wasn't angry," I said calmly. "You were honest. Maybe for the first time in months." I continued. She opened her mouth to say something, but I held up a hand. "You wanted me to disappear. You said it would make you truly happy." The color drained from her face. "So that's what I'm going to give you. Exactly what you asked for." I woke up at 5 a.m. She was still asleep, curled up on her side of the bed, as she had been for months, as far away from me as possible without falling off the mattress. The night before, after I told her about her real present, she had gone silent. Then she tried to take it back, saying she didn't mean it, that she was just frustrated, that married couples say things they don't feel. But I had cut her off immediately. "You meant it," I had said, "and I respect you enough to take you seriously." She went to bed without another word. Now, in the gray light of dawn, I dressed silently and went downstairs to my home office. Everything I needed was already prepared. Bank documents, copies of important papers, a list of contacts I would need to call. I had spent 2 weeks preparing this. The separate account was funded and ready. I had quietly moved my personal belongings, things that mattered to me, clothes, books, a few family photos. Not enough for her to notice, but enough so I wouldn't be starting from scratch. I wrote the note on plain white paper. No dramatic flourishes, no emotional appeals, just facts. "You said you wanted me to disappear. You said it would be your best birthday present. Consider your wish granted. Don't look for me. This is what you asked for." I left the note on the kitchen counter, where she would find it when she came down for coffee. Then, I grabbed my keys, wallet, and the single bag I had packed the night before and walked out of the house we had shared for 3 years. The morning air was cool and quiet. No neighbors were awake yet. There was no traffic on our street. I got in my car and drove away from the life she told me she didn't want me in. I had rented a small apartment across town with my new bank account. Nothing fancy, just a furnished studio that would serve its purpose. I paid for 3 months up front in cash. By 7 a.m., I was settled in my new temporary home, drinking coffee and watching the sun rise through unfamiliar windows. I knew she would be waking up soon. She would come downstairs expecting to find me making coffee like I did every morning for 3 years. Instead, she would find my note. My phone was off. I had bought a new one yesterday with a different number. The old phone was in a drawer at my new place, but I wasn't ready to deal with the messages that might be waiting. Around 9 a.m., I turned it on briefly. 12 missed calls, 8 text messages. "Where are you?" some said. "This isn't funny. Come home so we can talk. You can't just leave." I didn't mean what I said. "Please, call me back. You're being ridiculous." "Fine, have your tantrum, but you'll be back." I turned the phone off again. She thought it was a fit, a dramatic gesture to get attention or make her feel guilty. She had no idea this was just the beginning. Over the next few days, I established my new routine. I went to work as usual. I didn't tell anyone there what was happening. I ate my meals alone, read books I'd been meaning to get to, and walked through parts of the city I had never explored. It was quiet, even peaceful. Meanwhile, I knew she was probably going through the stages. First confusion, then anger, and then, perhaps, panic as she realized I wasn't coming back after a day or two like she expected. On Thursday, 5 days after I had disappeared, I drove past our house on my way to my new place after work. Her car was there, but so was Heather's. They had called in reinforcements. I didn't stop. On Friday, I checked my old phone again. Now there were 23 missed calls. The text messages had become more desperate. Everyone is asking where you are. I said we had a fight, but that you'll be back. How long are you going to keep this up? I'm starting to get worried. Okay, I'm sorry. Is that what you want to hear? This is insane. Just come home. Worried. Now she was worried. But this was exactly what she had asked for me to be out of her life. Her exact words were that it would make her truly happy. I was just making sure she got the full experience of her request. The real surprise was yet to come. By the second week, panic had fully set in. I knew this because her sister started calling my work. My assistant mentioned that someone had been asking for me, claiming to be family, wanting to know if I was okay. Should I be concerned? She asked me on Monday morning. No, I replied. Just personal drama. Nothing that will affect my work. Personal drama. That's what our marriage had become. I also learned that she had gone to the authorities. A friend of mine who's a detective mentioned that someone had tried to file a missing person report, but the case was closed pretty quickly. The guy left home after a fight with his wife. He told me over some beers on Thursday night. It happens all the time. They told her that as long as there's no sign of a crime, if he left on his own accord, it's not legally considered a disappearance. He had no idea he was talking about me. The old phone now had 47 missed calls and more text messages than I cared to count. The tone had shifted from anger to desperation into something very close to genuine fear. I found your note. We need to talk. I know you're getting these messages. Your boss said you're still going to work. Why won't you come home? I'm sorry. Okay. I shouldn't have said that. People are starting to ask questions. I don't know what to tell them. Please, just call me for 5 minutes. I'm scared something happened to you. This isn't what I wanted. That last one made me laugh. It wasn't what she wanted. She had been very specific about what she wanted. On Friday of the second week, I decided it was time for phase 2. I had been patient. I had given her the full experience of me disappearing from her life. She had gotten exactly what she asked for. 2 weeks without me, without my presence, without having to deal with me in any way. Now, she needed to understand what that really meant. I went to the house during my lunch break, when I knew she would be at work. Using my key, I went inside to grab a few more things. But more importantly, I left some documents on the kitchen table, the no-fault divorce petition, already filled out and signed by me, along with copies of our financial records, showing how I had quietly separated our accounts over the last month, how I had changed my direct deposit to the new bank, and how I had removed my name from the electricity, water, and gas bills, and everything that tied me to that house. I also left the house keys, the keys to the car that was in both our names but that I had been making the payments on, credit cards that I had already canceled, and one more note. You got what you wanted, for me to be gone. But disappearing means disappearing completely. The financial support disappears. The shared responsibilities disappear. Everything I brought to this marriage disappears, exactly as you asked. When she got home from work and found all of that waiting for her, she would realize this wasn't a tantrum or a dramatic gesture. This was me fulfilling her birthday wish with surgical precision. I went back to my apartment and waited. The phone started ringing at 6:47 p.m. I let it ring. By 7:30, there were 6 new voicemails. You can't just file for divorce without talking to me. This is insane. Come home so we can fix this. You can't take everything and just leave. I never asked for this. You're being cruel. Please, we can work this out. But she had asked for this. She had been very clear. She wanted me to disappear. She wanted her life to be better without me. Now she had the chance to find out if she was right. 3 weeks after her birthday, she finally found a way to contact me. I was in my new apartment on a Saturday night when there was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole, and there she was, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was messy, and she was still wearing the work clothes from the day before. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. We need to talk, she said. Oh, do we? Don't do this. Don't act like you don't know why I'm here. I leaned against the doorframe. She glanced around my small apartment, taking in the basic furniture and the boxes I hadn't unpacked yet. You filed for divorce? She said. Her hands were trembling as she crossed her arms, trying to look more in control than she actually was. I was angry when I said that. People say things when they're angry. You weren't angry, I replied calmly. You were honest. Maybe for the first time in months. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you were genuinely happy to see me come home? When was the last time you wanted to spend time with me? When was the last time you didn't act like my presence was an inconvenience? She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. I gave you exactly what you asked for, I continued. You wanted me to disappear. I disappeared. You wanted your life to be better without me. Here's your chance to prove it. I can't afford the $2,500 mortgage on my own, she said in a low voice. That's not my problem anymore. The bills, the car payment, the insurance, that's all on you now, since you have the independence you wanted so badly. She looked at me as if I were a stranger. Which, in a way, I was. That's not what I meant, she said. Then what did you mean? When you said you wanted me to disappear, what exactly did you think that entailed? I thought maybe we'd separate for a while, have some space, work on ourselves. While I kept paying for everything. While you hoped I'd decide I could tolerate you again. That's exactly what you expected. You wanted all the benefits of not having me around without any of the consequences of actually not having me. My neighbors could probably hear the whole conversation, but I didn't care. I've been thinking about what you said, she went on. About the way I acted. You're right. I took you for granted. Oh, sure. Or maybe you just realized that being without me meant having to handle everything on your own. She flinched. I can change, she said. I'm sure you can, I replied. But not with me. Why? I looked at her, standing there at my door 3 weeks after getting exactly what she asked for, now desperate to undo it all. Because you killed something when you said that. You didn't just tell me you needed space or time. You told me your life would be better if I didn't exist in it. I didn't mean it like that. That's exactly how you said it. And you know what? Maybe you were right. Maybe your life will be better without me. Now you have the chance to find out. She was crying now, more emotion than I had seen from her in months. Please, she said, can we go to therapy? Can we fix this? No, I answered simply. I took a step back and started to close the door. You're really going to throw away 3 years of marriage over one thing I said. I paused with the door still ajar. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm just fulfilling your birthday wish. You said my disappearance would be your best present. I just made sure you got exactly what you asked for. Wait, she said, putting her hand on the door. Please, don't do this. I looked at her one last time. The difference between us is this. When you said you wanted me gone, you meant it. When you say you want me back, you're just scared of the consequences of getting exactly what you wanted. I closed the door and locked it. She stood outside for another 10 minutes, calling my name every so often. Then I heard her footsteps walking away. 2 days later, the signed divorce petition arrived by courier. She had made her decision, just as I had made mine the night she told me her birthday wish. Sometimes you get exactly what you ask for, and sometimes it's the last thing you ever really wanted. Comment. This story is a powerful reminder that we can all forget in the heat of the moment. Our words have incredible power. They can build a world or shatter it in an instant. It's a call to be mindful, communicate our frustrations with care, and never take the presence of our loved ones for granted. Let's choose to use our words to heal and connect, not to create wounds that may never close. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.